Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1353. The topic is training and the title is Correcting Diastasis Recti, Distended Abdominal Muscles. Now this is actually something we have a video on YouTube about this, and it's actually my highest watched video. So this is very common, and what's interesting is it's actually more common in populations other than just pregnant women. So what this is basically it's the separation of the abdominal muscles. So your six-pack abs that you would see, if you're, me included, if we were all lean enough, we would see them. But they separate, and like the three on the left side, the three on the right side, the gap in the middle, actually the gap grows and spreads. The three on each side separate out during pregnancy. And this is an issue that women will have then after pregnancy. Their stomach wall is distended, and it'll actually make them look like they still have like kind of a belly to them, when it's not actually fat. It's just the abdominal wall is kind of distended, which you could use the word loose, but it's not like it's like flopping around. It's distended, and the muscles have kind of thinned out. So we need to work on that to kind of strengthen those tissues and bring them back in. So the abdominal muscles, there's more than just like your six-pack abs. There are external, internal obliques. There's a muscle called the transverse abdominis, which is a very, very important muscle for having kind of a narrowed, or like a flat stomach, we'll say it that way. So training more than just your six-pack abs is extremely important, and training more than just your six-pack abs is how you work to correct diastasis recti. So I do work with women like during pregnancy for exercise and nutrition, and I work with women after pregnancy for nutrition and exercise. And something we cover almost all of the time, without probably any exclusion, is this diastasis recti component. So we want to work on strengthening those tissues and decreasing that separation, kind of bringing the abdominal wall back in. Now this is also seen in men. And I do work with high-level bodybuilders and high-level, like elite-level powerlifters, and they'll actually start to have separation in their abdominal muscles related to the internal pressure that's created during very heavy lifts. So male bodybuilders, you'll see this, especially if you look at male bodybuilders from the beginning of their career to kind of the advancement of their career. If you look at like IFBB pros, the wall, the abdominal separation between their six-pack actually spreads as they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Part of this is due to the thinning out of the abdominal muscle, in the sense to where they might have very strong rectus abdominis, but they don't have strong transverse abdominis. So they don't train their abs in a complex enough manner that it can counter that abdominal pressure that's being created, that is causing the separation that you'll see as they get bigger over time. So this is something you do see in high-level bodybuilders, high-level powerlifters, but you also will see it in men who just gain weight. Especially if they don't exercise, they don't train their abs, directly. They might just gain weight over years, and all of a sudden their ab wall, their stomach is sticking out. And they might say, like, I don't feel like I'm as fat as I look. It's just my ab wall is kind of distended. If you were to touch their stomach, it's almost like a turtle shell, in the sense to where the muscle's actually there. Like you can feel muscle, but it's distended and it's stuck out like a turtle shell. And that's another case you'll see of this, like diastasis recti, this kind of separation of the abdominal wall. So this is more common than just women post-pregnancy. I just want to kind of say that because actually the most common people I get messaging me, like we have our video on YouTube, if you just type Brutal Iron Gym Diastasis Recti, you'll see that I give an exercise called a pull-off hold and pull-off rotation, which is like a banded exercise. I'm one of the few people on the internet that you can find that tells you that there's actually something you can do about it. You have to be smart with what you do about it, but you 100% you can make a difference. 100%. I've done it hundreds of times. So it's not even a doubt at all at this point. I can, give you all my clients' names, and we've done it every single time. So yes, you can do it. However, people who don't understand like training exercise. You might have a doctor that says, oh, you shouldn't do abdominal exercises. You might tear the abdominal wall. Well, yeah, if you're an idiot about it, sure. But just telling somebody not to do anything doesn't make them feel any damn better. They don't feel better about it because nothing can change. They feel stuck. They feel like they have no ability to control the situation, to manipulate, to influence the situation. And 100% you do. There's absolutely no reason why you can't make a difference. You just have to be smart in the way in which you approach it. So there are dangerous and counterproductive ways to train your abs when you have this condition, but there are ways to train them to completely correct the condition. Now, what I want to do is just run through some of the things we do and then make an offer for you to reach out for more information that's more specific to you. But the first thing we look at is doing what's called vacuums. And don't worry, men, I'm not telling you to vacuum the house, although your wives might hope I'm telling you that. But vacuums are an abdominal exercise that trains the transverse abdominis. And in a sense, it trains the muscles that kind of hold your stomach in. So, if somebody we like walks past us and we try to pull our belly in, males or females, the muscles that kind of pulled your stomach in to try to like suck your belly in, that's in part your transverse abdominis, and those are muscles that we can have an influence on. Those are muscles that we can strengthen, and then that decreases the degree in which our muscles are distended when we're at rest. So this is something that if you ever just kind of stood there when no one else was looking and just kind of let your stomach go, like just fully let your stomach relax, you might notice that your stomach can distend pretty far. But we don't typically stand all day with our abdomen fully relaxed. We would have some type of tone or tension to it throughout the day, and that is going to be like a baseline strength of the transverse abdominis in part. There's other conditions and other muscles and stuff, but in part, that's just like your default strength of your transverse abdominis. If we do an exercise called vacuums, we can strengthen our transverse abdominis, and we can create a greater degree of strength as our like passive all-day strength. That then allows us to have the abdominal wall pulled inward even when we're at rest. So this is super duper 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 important. Now, there are two videos I'd like you to watch. They're on YouTube. The first one, the channel name is WikiHow. It's WikiHow. So if you go to WikiHow channel and then look for the YouTube video titled How to Do the Stomach Vacuum Exercise. Pretty easy name to remember. So you could probably even just search that in YouTube search function is How to Do the Stomach Vacuum Exercise. You'll see a channel, WikiHow, and I would encourage you to watch that video. That is a baseline video that I have people watch. It just teaches the concept of what a vacuum is, and I'll give you more kind of information down here on how to use this and how frequent and stuff. But in general, that tells us kind of what the vacuum is in regards to that type of exercise. We also have another variation of the vacuum that I'd like you to know about, and it's on an eHow Fitness channel. It's a small e, like email or electronic. So small e, then it's How Fitness, HOWFITNESS, and it's titled Abdominal Vacuum Exercise. That one is laying down on the ground. So the first video shows you kind of the vacuum exercise if you were sitting or standing. The eHow Fitness channel, their video is laying down on your back. All of these are going to be very helpful in various reasons, but I would encourage you to watch these videos and do this vacuum exercise. Now, how often can you do the vacuum exercise? Literally, you can just do it continuously all day. There's going to be no too much. You'll just get tired and have to stop, but you can't hurt yourself doing it. So there's no muscle tearing. There's no like inflammation that builds up. Nothing like that. It's just more so mind-muscle connection and just kind of flexing a muscle. So you can do that as much as you want. It's just at some point in time you might get tired and you have to take a break. Now, whenever I was gaining size, I graduated high school at 165 pounds. I am now 280 pounds. So as I've gained size, I was very cautious of what my stomach would look like as I would gain weight. So when I was 165, I actually had fat rolls on my stomach and was actually fat. I would have been probably maybe 6 foot tall, 135 pounds if I was kind of lean. So I was very, very, very thin, no muscle whatsoever. So I already had a belly that protruded at 165. But I wanted to get bigger muscles. I loved, looking at bodybuilding. I loved all this stuff, lifting weights. So I wanted to get bigger, but I didn't want my stomach to get bigger. So I actually kind of was aware of the concept of pulling your abs in, and I would do that all day at school. When I was sitting in class bored and I was supposed to be studying or paying attention, I'd be doing vacuum exercises, and it helped a lot. I would do that the whole way through my undergrad. Even when I started Brutal Iron Gym, I started the gym back in 2011, so 11 years ago. I would train clients like 50 hours a week, which some days was 8 to 12 hours of actual like face-to-face in-person training people for 8 to 12 hours. And whenever they were doing an exercise, if they were doing 3 sets of 10 on like a lying leg curl, I would be pulling my stomach in the entire length of time they would take them to do their set of 10. Then I would kind of relax. I'd tell them what I wanted them to know about the exercise, teach something. And then while they were doing their next set, I would pull my stomach in. And I would do this all damn day. Literally all day for hours a day, and it helped a lot. So I'm 280 pounds now, and I'm leaner than I was at 165, and my stomach is not as flat as I would like it to be because I tend to hold myself to a ridiculous standard that'll probably never be met. However, it is relatively flat for a 280 pound person, and you would see that if you check out the video we have on Diastasis Recti on YouTube. You can just search again Brutal Iron Gym Diastasis Recti, and you'll see me in the video. And I don't have a fat belly, even though I'm 280 pounds. So I've been able to kind of take care of that, and it's been just mindfulness all of the time. So even when I'm sitting at my desk doing computer work, I try never to sit like just totally where my back is rounded over forward, my belly's sticking out. I try to sit with some degree of posture, some degree of abdominal tension, and it's just a learned trait, but I learned it relatively quickly, and it kind of became habit. So for example, I used to walk with my toes flared out when I was in high school, and I kind of thought it looked dorky. So I didn't like it. So I wanted to train myself to walk with my feet straight. I kind of felt it was like oafish to walk with my feet out. So I wanted to train myself to walk with my feet straight. So every day, all day in school, when I would sit, my feet would be straight. When I'd walk, my feet would be straight. And I forced myself to do it all day, every damn day. And it was through my 11th grade year of school that I did that, and I paid attention to it all day, every day for the entire school year. I think, maybe the last 2 months, 3 months, I didn't think of it much. So it was kind of the first half to 3/4 of the year. And now that has stuck with me the entire rest of my life. So I walk with my feet straight. So it was something that took, maybe 6 to 9 months. Well, let's say 6 months of attention to it every day, all day. But now I've kept it, since I was 16, 17 years old. So for 20 years, I've never thought of it. It's just how I walk now. So doing vacuum exercises, you might have to be very mindful of it at first, but eventually it'll become just a way of life for you. So what I tell clients is set a reminder on your phone every hour to do it. You can do it just every time you eat. You can do it every time you go to the bathroom. Remember to do a couple, repetitions of holds. You can pair it with anything that you already do every day. So everybody has to pee every day. So if you pair a new habit with an existing habit, especially one that's not a choice, it'll help you to be more consistent with the new habit. So if I pair the new habit of doing stomach vacuums with the existing habit of going to the bathroom, then every time I go to the bathroom, I remember to do a stomach vacuum. Therefore, I eventually get to do the vacuum on a regular basis without thinking much of it, because I built that consistency by pairing it with an existing habit. So anytime you want to remember to do a new thing, pair it with an old thing, and that helps a lot. Okay, so those are vacuums. Watch those videos. Do it as much as you can. Literally, you could do it all day, every damn day, and it won't hurt yourself. So just do it as much as you can possibly remember to do it. And over time, within 2 weeks, you'll easily start to feel like a strengthening effect difference. And then if you keep doing it within 8 weeks, you'd have a measurable difference. So if you were to measure the circumference of your stomach at your belly button, so that would include your lower back, and kind of love handles and whatnot. But if you measure around your belly button, and then you do vacuums every single day. And I'm just going to throw out there, say you do it 3 times every day, morning, midday, evening, something like that. And you do that for 8 weeks, guaranteed that's going to bring that kind of measurement of circumference around your belly button down, because it's just going to help pull in that abdominal wall. Now, in 8 weeks, there's a lot of things that would factor in, otherwise. Maybe you're doing a diet, so that also brings down the circumference of your waist. Maybe you're not doing a diet and you overeat, and that brings up the circumference. So you might have some other things going on. But if you were to measure the tightness of the abdominal wall, 8 weeks, if you're doing vacuums 3 times a day, absolutely plenty of time to see a significant difference. That gives you some context. Now, there are other exercises we can do that are safe. Generally, the non-safe exercises are going to be externally loaded flexion and extension exercises. So you want to avoid flexion and extension in external loading. What this means is a weighted crunch. You don't want to do that because that puts a weight load on top of a tissue that is already weakened. So we typically would do rotational exercises, anti-rotational exercises, and then anti-flexion, anti-extension. All that means is one of the best ways to train your abs is to put a force on your abs that should create movement, but you're going to flex your abs hard enough that no movement happens. A variation of this, so you can learn about it, is called a pull-off rotation or pull-off hold. The pull-off is P-A-L-L-O-F, and it's some dude's last name. Okay, so you can go on to YouTube, search Brutal Iron Gym, pull-off rotations or Brutal Iron Gym Diastasis Recti, and you'll see me demonstrating pull-off rotations. So one of the great things about pull-off rotations is all they use is a band. You can get bands off Amazon for like $10, and then you can do this stuff at home all the time. So you never even have to go to the gym to correct Diastasis Recti. You can do this at home doing vacuums and pull-off rotations and pull-off holds. Then there's a bunch of other type of anti-flexion, anti-extension, anti-rotational type movements. But if you start with pull-off rotations and pull-off holds, that'll help. And then you can email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com and I have a bunch of exercise links I can send you as well. But the other thing, the last thing we can do, is to reduce internal pressure created during heavy lifts. So if you are a bodybuilder, male, female, if you're a powerlifter, male, female, and you're doing lifting like exercises, you want to be careful of and be mindful of the internal pressure that you create in your abdomen. So I actually train a powerlifter right now who has a hernia. He has had past hernia surgeries, and he has a thinness of his abdomen, and he was very worried that he would have to give up powerlifting and not be able to do it. So he had heard about me through a podcast and reached out. Now we're working together for a couple months. He's kicking ass and feeling super strong, and we have no abdominal issues whatsoever. So one of the things we're doing is we're doing submaximal weight loads with very short rests and intentional focus on abdominal bracing. So he had to practice those vacuums. We're doing other core exercises. And then when he does his heavy lifts, we do submaximal weight, like say, for example, 80-85% of his max. But we'll do singles, but he might have to do 8 singles with 1 minute rest in between. Crazy difficult. Crazy difficult. But it allows him to be mindful of his abdominal positioning and bracing on each repetition. And in between each repetition, he can set the bar down. He can take a little breath, so he can basically focus on each repetition at peak quality, which allows him to maximally control his abdominal bracing. So that way it keeps him safe and it strengthens his transverse abdominis as well as his internal and external obliques, which are all helpful for kind of controlling diastasis recti. Then we also avoid what would be called lazy abdomen type exercises, and I'll explain that in a second, or exercises that promote you to have to push your stomach out, which is not going to be helpful at all for diastasis recti. That's the complete opposite of what you want to do. So don't do crunches where you push your stomach out. That's the worst freaking thing you could do. Don't do that. So what a lazy abdomen exercise is, for example, when most people do the leg press, as they're lowering the legs down, like as they're lowering the platform, they tend to push their stomach into their thighs to create bracing and help the exercise at the bottom of the movement. Don't do that. Do not push your stomach out. And it is kind of counterproductive to push your stomach out to the point where your quads can just kind of rest into your stomach. That's counterproductive to the point of what the exercise is trying to do. The exercise is actually trying to stimulate and challenge the muscle tissues. So if you give them a little bit of assistance or rest at the bottom of the movement, that's counterproductive. That's actually not helping. You'd have to put more weight onto the movement than what you'd actually need. Therefore, you tend to aggravate your lower back, aggravate your knees, and then you just look like a jackass who loads up 2,000 pounds on a leg press and moves it 2 inches. So don't do that. So we substitute with things like Smith machine squats. It's a way to have a little more control than a barbell squat because the Smith machine moves on rails. So that way you have a little more control even when you're fatigued. We do belt squat, hack squat, power squat. We have all those things in our gym. And then a lot of commercial gyms will have variations of those machines. So the one guy I work with, for example, in France, I got on the website for his gym, looked around on the photos they had, the type of equipment they had, and then we know which pieces of equipment will work best for him at his gym. So I did the same thing. Actually, the one client I have in the UK, his gym had a virtual tour on their website, which was freaking kick-ass, and it was really helpful to see the different type of equipment. So a lot of gyms nowadays, just due to technology, there's ways in which I can see their equipment. I have a client down in Costa Rica. She just walked around and filmed a video showing me the different pieces of equipment they have because her gym didn't have photos on the website. So it can be done, and that's what I love about the podcast and like the opportunities now in today's technology is to be able to help people from all over the world, and we're still able to send videos to correct technique, send videos or photos to correct posing positions and different things. So it's super fun. I love it. It's just super blessing to be able to be doing this. But that's what we do is we avoid exercises that promote the stomach to be relaxed or the stomach to push out. So another example would be like chest supported rows. I don't like chest supported rows for clients like this because they have to push their stomach out to create abdominal bracing for the movement. So we're sure as hell not going to do that because that's counterproductive. So we substitute with, like dumbbell rows, one-arm dumbbell rows, cable rows, depending on the strength of their abdominal muscles. So sometimes if they're coming in with diastasis recti, their abdominal muscles aren't strong enough to do a one-arm row. So we have to do cable-seated rows. We might even do like head-supported bent over dumbbell rows. There's a lot of variations of things you can do that use support and positional control other than pushing your stomach into a pad to create bracing. So we avoid all of those things. So when you're looking for what to do to help the condition of diastasis recti, learn how to do the vacuums. Check out those videos I said. Do them all damn day, every day, and I promise it'll start to make a difference. You'll definitely feel stronger in your abdomen within 2 weeks, and then you'll see some type of reduction or feel a reduction at the extent of 8 weeks for sure. Then what I do with like pile-off holds, pile-off rotations, other type of abdominal exercises is we do try to promote you to do that 3 to 4, even 5 times a week at home, but they're through like pile-off rotations and pile-off holds, for example, don't cause inflammation. They don't cause tearing of the tissue. So you can do those very high frequency. So we do a lot of home abdominal exercises as well on top of the vacuums. And then when they're in the gym, I have clients start with core exercises to strengthen their core muscles and kind of to give their best effort, best intention at them. It also increases their mind-muscle connection with abdominal bracing that they then carry into the rest of their lifts. So that is basically how we would structure their program to help with diastasis recti, is doing vacuums all day, every day, as much as you can. Do a couple home workouts for abdominal exercises a week, 3, 4, 5 times a week, and they're only like 10 minutes, so it's not a lot. But you get that in 3, 4, 5 times a week. Then anytime you work out at the gym, you start with core exercises and you pay attention to abdominal bracing during all exercises. And then we have proper exercise selection to avoid the lazy abdomen or the kind of pushing out abdomen bracing type exercises. Cool. So that is all that information. Check out our video, Brutal Iron Gym, Diastasis Recti on YouTube. If you email me, I can send you the free information that we share with anybody who emails me after watching that video. And then if you want any help with creating a programming, this is what I do. So if you want to work together as an online client for, a month or 2 or whatever and kind of figure out a routine that works for you with the equipment you have available, the routine and schedule you have, I'll also help with nutritional information. That's always included. But we can work together for a month or 2, get you on the right path, and you can kind of take it and run with it on your own for the rest of your life. So all of that is available. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. If you need anything, just reach out. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Well, if you like today's podcast, if you think this is helpful, please consider sharing our podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. So it's just that simple. You can share it on social media. That's the best way to reach the most amount of people. But even just in a conversation, if you're talking to somebody and they have a nutrition question or a training question, or they discuss or mention that they're uncertain about something, tell them about the podcast. Tell them to reach out, and we'll make them a free podcast. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the people who financially support the podcast. We continue to do this for free. You can now give support donations at our website, www.brutalirongym.com. We have kind of one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donations. I appreciate everybody that does that. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year. I give an hour to it every day. I truly appreciate the financial support. It's the only way that this makes any sense to do every single day and keep it for free. So thank you very, very much. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to know, let us know at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.